So what, like, if I remember correctly, what you were showing me was, yeah, ask first, ask, then I'll explain. Okay. And okay, so see what you are doing, you are using AWS, right? Yeah, see, you have to, that's what I told, that's why very important is that they should be in the same network. AWS is totally out of network, right? And what you have installed on your system, that is a separate network. Okay, so both networks cannot talk directly. There are a lot of things in AWS that you have to do VPC peering and lot of things to connect that your system. And from your system you can connect to AWS, because AWS IP that they give two IPs, public and private IPs. Okay, so that public IP is over internet. So if your system is working on internet, it will go ahead and connect it. But what IP on your local system is there, right? They are local IPs, they are not public IPs. Okay, they are private IPs and they cannot be pinged from outside the network. Okay, whatever network you have defined, outside that it will not work. Okay, so for that lot of peering and everything is required. So from AWS you cannot do. But of course, if you are launching an AWS instance, you can connect to that AWS instance from anywhere, public, using the public IP of that instance, and you can do your things. If you want to do it from whether on your mobile or from your tablet or from your computer, laptop, from wherever you want to do, you can go ahead and do that. Okay, so that would be there. So it has to be on same network. Okay. And Frederick, you were also having some issue, right? What host name issue was there? What was the issue? Okay, then it's fine. Okay, so I think till that point it is clear that how we go ahead and connect and how we start working on it. Okay, so now proceeding further. So today we are going to see commands. Okay, more commands which are very important. Okay, so these commands should be used for whether you are doing shell scripting or whether you are working on a Linux based environment. Both places these would be very much important. Okay, so let's first go ahead and open it and let me connect to the server. So command, already I sent you PDF cheat sheet for the quick reference. So we will be seeing various commands. So yesterday we have seen some few commands like how to create a user and how to change a password for a user, right? If you remember, so we have seen two commands. Now if you want to see the user details, okay, whatever OS level user we are talking about, so user that you created, maybe here in our case it's Himanshu, or you have created some Rajesh or Frederick, whatever user you have created. So you can check the details of that user using the ID command. ID is the identification, so it will tell you the ID command. But if you want to see when the password will expire or what is the policy of password and the details about this user Himanshu, right? So there is a command called as chase, CHAG, chase command, okay, -L. So what it will do, it will show you the details of this user. Okay, that when was the last password change? So it was done yesterday. Yes, yeah, it's already started. Yeah, it's started. Okay. So so change -L. So what it will give? It will give you the information about a specific user. Okay, so it will go ahead and give a information about a specific user. So if you can see when was the last password change, when it expires, when the user is inactive, account expires, and how many number of days it will go ahead and do that. So all these settings are mostly done by your system admins, okay, but just in case you want to see it, you can check from this particular command. So at an individual user level also you can check it, so it doesn't need to be a root privilege to check the account. Of course, to make any changes you have to have a system admin privileges. Okay, clear? So yesterday then we have seen two commands already, pwd and cd. So they were the two commands. Okay, now the next important command is, let me show it here somewhere. Okay, so don't get confused on these screens. Okay, it's just for understanding. Okay, so because right now I don't have any files here, so that's why I'm showing you on my local system. So what happens here, let's say, because that is also my Linux, so you can see you are seeing various details of files and folders, whatever is present. Okay, so for that specific reason what we use, the command is called the ls command. Okay, that is an ls command. Ls is for list. Okay, so if I only run ls, so what it will do, it will only list me what, it will only list me the files and folders, both. It will list both files and folders both, but the difference is it will only show minimum information. It will just show you the name, that okay, this is a file, this is a specific folders. So that information it will not show directly from here. Okay, so to get more details, that which is the file, which is the folder, okay, what you can do, you have a command as ls, and with each command, okay, if you see each command, there are various options available. Okay, each command would be having various options that you can use along with them. Okay, so to use the options, what you have to do, hyphen and the option name. So let's say in this case what I want to check, ls is my list the files and directories, and then I am giving it hyphen and l. L means long list. Long list means give me more details. I just don't want only the names, I want more details about those files and directories. So as soon as I do ls hyphen l and hit enter, you will see the view is different than what you saw in ls command. Okay, so now what does this mean? Now you will see lot of details about these files and directories. So here what you see, the first is the information is the first field. I will say this is the first field. So from first field, if you see, you can specifically see it's written D. Okay, so D means it's a directory. It's a directory type, and these are specific directories where you can navigate. Okay, then these are the permissions. We will come to it later how the permission works. Then we have, this is the link pointers, we will see later. For now you will get confused. Then this is the owner, who is the owner of this directory. Then this is the group owner, who is the group owner of that directory. Then it will be the size. Then you have date specified as your month, your specific day, and your time. If it is like older files like 2020, 2019 files, it will show as 2019 or 2020 here. Okay, rather than showing you the time. Clear? Yes, this is server time. So if you want to check the server time wherever you are connected, just press a command known as date command. Date command will give you the server time, because this is the server is also in the IST, right? So if you remember, when you install the server or when you have installed this virtual box, the time zone option was there, right, where we selected Asia Kolkata. So that picked up your IST time zone. But if you would have selected somewhere else like America, North America, UK, so it would have taken the EST time zones. Clear? So it totally depends what is the time zone on the server. So that time zone you can easily check via the date command, that what exactly is the current time zone that is set here. Clear? Now let's say I go to this folder. So cd I will use to go inside the folder. Now I am inside the folder. Now again if I do ls-l, now you see here we have ddd as the first character, but here in these files we don't have any d, right? Only we have dash 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 dash, right? So what does this mean? That okay, these are not directories, these are specific files. Okay, so these are the various files that are there in my directory known as shell scripts. So these are various files available here. Okay, and other parameters will remain same, like the timestamp, size, owner, group owner, and the pointers, how many pointers are there. So this will remain the same. Clear? Okay. Now in Linux, don't get confused about these extensions. Okay, the file depends upon whether it is text based or binary based. Okay, extension you can give anything. Okay, so how we give it we will see later, but don't get confused on these extensions. Anything you can give text, sh or anything. It totally depends on you. It only makes it easy to identify which type of specific files are there. So ls-l will give you the listing. Now if let's say I want to clear my screen, see I am at bottom, I want to clear it. So what I will do, write a command known as clear. As soon as I hit clear, it will go at top of my screen. Okay, remember it will go ahead and clear on top. Okay, so your screen is cleared. Now next thing, you can also use an option ls-l. Apart from that, you can option as -r. Okay, so what does this mean? L means list me the files with details, then -r means in reverse order. Okay, so it will do it in reverse order. So let's say if I do like this, okay, so it will show me the files in the reverse order. Okay, but what reverse order? There is no specific reverse order that it is showing. Just it is showing the reverse of ls-l. So if I was doing ls-l, it was showing me in this order, right? Now when I am going ahead and doing ls-l-r, it is just reversing the order of how it is showing the files. Clear? It is just reversing whatever output it was coming here, it will just reverse it. In the reverse order it will display you. Got it? So easy method, rather than doing this hyphen every time. So you can, in any commands in Linux, you can use -lr together. So it will be the same thing. It will come the same thing. What we have seen the output here and what output we have seen here, it will be the one and the same thing. No changes. Okay. So rather than typing every time -l, -r, various options, just you can simply do ls-lr. Okay. Now next, let's say now I want to go ahead and see the files, but based on a timestamp. Okay, I want to see the files based on a timestamp, that when the file was created, which is the older one, which is the newer one. Based on that I want to find. Okay, because ls-l or ls-lr is not giving me correctly, because 17 June file is there, then 15 June file is there, then 13 June file is there, so there is no sequence here, right? So to make that in sequence, what I can do, ls-l, and then there is the option as t. T is for time. So it will display based on the time. So by default it will display the newest at the top and oldest at the bottom. Okay, so if you see the newest file of 17 July at 10:34 p.m. this was the newest. Then the 17 July 9:32 there was another file, and then based on that it will keep checking. See, 9:31 there was a file, and based on that it will display. Clear? So this is the specific display based on the timestamp, but where the file that is newest will be at the top and oldest will be at the bottom. Okay. Now mostly what happens, like here we have only few files, where the folders have like let's say 100 of files or 200,000 files. It becomes very difficult because all the new files would be at top. So what you have to do, you have to every time scroll up to go ahead and see the files, right? You have to go ahead and scroll up to see various files. Let me see if I have any directory with many files. Okay, see like this, there are many files here, so it is reversing it. Okay, but let's say if we have 100 of 1000 files, you have to scroll up, right? You have to go ahead and scroll up and down to see it. So normally what is preferred is that always, like mostly you would be looking for new files first. Okay, which are the new files that are there, or the latest files that got generated. So with the same, what you can do, ls-lt, but now in reverse order. So what is the benefit of this, that let's say if I have 1000 files, so as soon as my screen ends or my commands complete, so at the last you will see the newest file that got generated. So in case you are validating any log files, if you are going ahead and checking any log files, any specific error files, so you know what is the latest error file that is generated, and you can easily go ahead and check inside that error file whether there are any errors or not. Clear? Now if I just enter this, so now you see the order is reversed. The now order got reversed, and you will see it in a reverse order, where the oldest is at the top and the newest one is at the bottom. So I know that okay, this is the newest folder that was updated. Okay, so see if I do ls-ltr now in this folder, so oldest one, see 9 May, it is gone up, whereas the newest one June 19 is at the bottom. Okay, if I just do ls-lt here, you will have to scroll up every time to see what is the newest file. Okay, because newest file will go at the top. Clear? Okay. Now with the same ls-l, so see there are various options with ls-l, but most of the common ones that we use I am mentioning. Then how are the various options available? If you want to check, I will tell you the commands for that also. So now let's say in here I want to see I don't want to see the files based on the timestamp. I want to see the file based on the size. Okay, so in that case what you do, ls-l and capital S. So what it will do, it will show you based on the size. So now again by default it is bigger one at the top. See this is the biggest file, so this is at the top, whereas the smallest one is at the bottom. Okay, so these are the various files. Now this also you can do the reverse same way, -r, and it will reverse the file. So the biggest one will come at the bottom and the smallest one will go at the top. So these are useful when you are going ahead and let's say you want to delete, you want to find okay what are my biggest files and you want to remove them, or let's say archive them. So you can easily find using this method. Clear? Any doubts? Okay. So these are the yes. No, it will only come with one. If I let's say use T, okay. So see, it will prefer the timestamp first. Okay, so it has done with the timestamp. Okay, so only one option it will use at a time. Okay. So now, but if you see now here one more thing, the size it's coming in bytes. Okay, so it's very difficult many times to understand the size. You have to calculate it, right? What is this size? Now you have to divide it bytes to convert into kilobytes and megabytes. You have to divide it by 1024, right, to convert it. So by default size this is in bytes. Okay, so rather than calculating yourself, there is again one option here along with it. What I can use, H is for human readable format. Okay, So what it will do, it will convert the size in something meaningful that will be more easy for you to understand. So if I hit enter here, see now it has changed it. So now this file size is 8 MB. This is some 900k, 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 1.9k. So it will easily identify you that what is the actual size. So you don't have to calculate it, it will easily display you on the screen itself. Clear? Okay. So these are normally the ls commands that you use very often. Okay. Now next thing is how I can see the options, right? So we are talking about there are so many options, right? There are so many options that you cannot remember for all. These are the ones that we use for our normal professional basis, but there are many options that you want to see. So there are few commands that will help you to get detail. You don't need to go ahead and google it that what are the various options. In Linux itself there are various options that can help you. So let's say first important thing is that I want to go ahead and see whether what does that command do. Let's say you have a ls command, you don't know what is an ls command, you don't know what it actually does. So there is a very simple command that is known as what is. The term itself is what is, the command name is what is, and you want to see okay what is ls command. So you just type the command name ls and hit enter. So what it will do, it will give you a very one-liner information. Okay, if you just want to have a quick info that what is ls command, so it is a command to list directory contents. So it will give you the directory contents information in one line only. It will explain you the ls command. Clear? Let's say same thing, yesterday we used user add command, so you can add it. So it will say it is used to create a user or update default new user informations. So these are the user add command. Okay, so this will give you one line of information. Clear? Okay, now next you want a little bit more information. You say okay this is fine, but I want a little bit more information. So next what command you should use, there is a command, with every command there is an option of help. Okay, so just type ls -help. So what it will do, it will show you the various options available with that particular command. Okay, that ls is the command, then you can give options, you can give file name, and based on that there are various options available with it. ls-a, capital A, B, capital B, and what does they do, these options, right? So all those details you will get easily from this command. So it will give you the command and the command options informations. Clear? So like R we were using, it was for reverse order while sorting. Okay, now next -help, ls, any command -help. Let's say user add. Okay, so it's not only for ls. Okay, user add they are generic for all commands. User add -help, right? So now user add you have various options, right? That's what you want to do. Okay, so these options, if you are seeing the options written in square bracket, single square bracket, that means they are optional. Okay, but if you see something like login is actually the username what you want to create, and user add command, if you are not seeing that in braces, that means they are mandatory. You cannot just run user add blankly without any options, without any username given. Okay, so the options that are in single square brackets, they are optional, but other things are mandatory. Clear? Okay, so this is -help. Now if you want a little bit more detail, okay, so you have one more option. If you want to have to read more about it or more information about this, so what you will do, you can do man is called as manual pages of that command. Okay, so let's say we were discussing ls, so I will click ls, so it will give the manual page for that ls command. So it will give you more details about that command. Okay, just use arrow key to go down. It will tell you the name, it will tell you the synopsis, then what are the different options, and with more details. So it's like a manual page for that particular command. So it will have all the informations here. If you see here, it will have all the options and who is the author. So remember, whatever commands we are using in Linux is an open source operating system. Okay, it's an open source, and most of the commands and everything are developed by various users across the world. Okay, so even if you know how to write and do lot of commands, you can create your own command as well if you want. Okay, and you can go ahead and club it in with your system or club it over the internet, and it will be used by any new operating systems. Okay, if someone wants to install it, they can install it. So there anyone can go ahead and create a commands. So see, all these commands are open source license, that is the GNU license, general user license, or it is called GPL, general public license. Okay, so they are free to use, and you can go ahead and check the source code, and you can rewrite the source code in your own way, and you can again launch it with your own new features and new codes. Okay, I hope that is clear. So any command you want to see who is the writer, you can use the man command to find who is the writer of that command. Got it? So to come out of the manual pages, you have to click Q. Q is for quit. Okay, now this is the manual pages, and now the fourth option, that the last option that we can use is information. So it is like a full book of that command. Okay, so this is the biggest information that it will give for that ls command. The smallest was your what is, and then the biggest one is your info. Okay, so info will go ahead and give you the fullest information that is available. Okay, so let's say ls. You see, it will give you a full details, how the command was written, what is the command, when it was written, everything will be in very much details. Okay, so it will have lot of various options, which files will be listed, which files will not be listed. So if you want to read more details of each files, it will display using the info command. So it's like a full book of that particular command. Okay, clear? And it will show you the examples also. So if you see, examples are also available. Okay, so info is the biggest information about any command. Again, to come out of info, you have to press Q to come out of that info. So total we have 4 important things here. That is what is, then your help, command name, hyphen help, then man, command, whatever is command, what is command, and then you have last info command. Okay, so from this you can find out any options available with the command and the details of that command. Got it? So like you have one more option. If I show you, rather than -r, there is one capital R also. So what it will show? It will show you recursively. Each folders in the directory also will be shown. So if you see it here, from here, first what it has shown, in my present directory, that is the pictures directory, it has shown me these files. Then I have 2 more directories here, screenshot and this picture directory. It will go ahead and recursively show inside screenshots as well what's inside that. Then this one again, it will go inside and show you more details about what files are mentioned in that. Again you have more directory inside it, it will go inside that. Okay, so it will recursively show anything inside the directory and the subdirectories. It will show everything when you are using capital R. Clear? Any doubts? Okay. I will again clear the screen. Okay, then So these are the ls command to list the files. Okay, again these are the commands that you will be using in shell scripting as well. Okay, so these are needed. Next you have something as important commands. When you are working in the shell or the terminal, so you might have some important commands that are available there. So what you use, like date, I have told. Date will give you the current date and the timestamp of your server, okay, where you are connected. Then you have a command called as who command, right? Who command is there. What it will say? Okay, I am not connected on the server. This is local. Hold on, I will show it here. So earlier was the date command. Then you have who command. Who command will show you who all are connected to this my machine or server. So it will show you one session is open from a user Himanshu at this time 8:05 when we started the class. That time I connected to the terminal using SSH. So this is the one session that is open. If right now if I go ahead and open one more session, let's say I go ahead and open so let's say if I connect via root user. Okay, so now I connected. Now if I do who command again, it will show me two users connected. One connected just now 8:33 from this IP address. Got it? So these commands are also important because let's say if you want to build something that, okay, you want to build a shell script. Of course it's in the assignment I will give it, that give me the names of users who are connected and the timestamp when they are connected. Okay, so how you go ahead and do that. Okay, so again you have to understand that what is the best approach. So you have to use a command as who command, which is available for going ahead and connecting to that this is a shell session that is started. So if I start one more, it will go to PTS2, the number of sessions it will start. Okay, it will go to that particular sessions. Like let's say if I open one more putty. So what I will do, quickly hold on, I am on root somewhere here. So what, let's me create one more user add, and I will say Bob. Okay, I am adding a user Bob, simple user, how we did yesterday, and I will set a password for it, PSSWT Bob, and I will give a password. Okay, I have given the password and the user is created successfully. Now again I open putty here. Yeah, I open putty and now I will connect with user Bob 192.168.156.71, and now I will connect with user Bob and the password okay. So now I am connected with the user Bob again here, right? So I have 3 users right now. Now if I do who, so see, it is showing me one more session started with user Bob. So this PTS sessions is now we have 2, 0, 1 and 2. Clear? So you will get 2 sessions here. Okay, so number of sessions will keep increasing depending. So because this is Linux, so Linux you have multi-user, multi-threading options where on the same system multiple users can connect at the same time and they can do their own specific tasks. Okay, if the resources and the hardware allows, they can run various different tasks. Like someone can run some job, someone will run a script, someone will do some editing, anything will keep working together. So these are shell sessions that are open right now. Right now I don't have any GUI. If I was having a GUI, that time what it would have shown you TTY. Or if I am connecting via server, let's say I will connect via server here. So this is my actual server that is running from here, VirtualBox, right? So this one. So if I am connecting directly here, root. Okay. Now if I go ahead and see, so see, this will change. this is a TTY session because you are directly connected to the server. So this is a different type of connections that is made. Okay, these are terminal sessions that are coming outside to the shell, but these are internal to your server only. I am directly connected to my server here, right? So that's why it is showing me TTY1 session. Clear? Okay. Now who is one command? Next, let's say if I want to get more details, little bit more details, there is a command W, just W. Okay, so what it will do, if I hit enter, it will tell me how much CPU it is utilizing, what is the percentage CPU, what session. So see, these are bash sessions, these are bash sessions that are running, bash connections are made. So these are the sessions that are connected to that particular system. And what Himanshu has done, because this is my current session, so it has ran a command W, which I ran just now. So this will give you a little bit more details, what utilization it is performed. Clear? Okay. Now next important thing, these all commands are very useful when you are writing scripts, if you want to do or make any checks. Okay, now again we have, let's say I want to check which user I am currently connected with. Okay, there are two things. Currently I am connected, I started my SSH session from which user, and which user I am currently connected. They are two different things. Okay, so if you see here what I have done, I have started this session using root user, right? So if I do a command known as who am I, there are two commands, who space am space I, enter, it will show me root. And there is one more command, who am I, without space, it will also show you root. But now what's the difference it will make? Let's say I am at root, let's say from the same session, I am not opening a new session, I am using the same current session, and what I am going to do, su hyphen, I will switch to a user. What is this switch user command? We will see later, don't get confused. I will switch to a user from root. Root has the super user, so it can switch to any user. So if your admin wants, they can connect with your user ID and see what you have kept in your home directory and everything. So they can go ahead and check. So that's it. That's why root is a super user. So I will switch to user Himanshu, right? So now see, my connection is made with Himanshu here. But there are two things. Now I run the same command, who space am space I, it will show me root. And if I do who am I, it will show me Himanshu. So what it is showing me, if you want to check the SSH session was opened by which user, so that was the root user, but currently which user is connected or running any scripts or something, so that is Himanshu user. Okay, so normally what we do, let's say I am writing a script and I want to check or I want to display which user is running this particular script. Let's say you are on the same server, you have two IDs, one is Rajesh, one is Frederick. Okay, and I want run the script. So that script, I will make sure that in the script there is an option where it will capture the user who is actually running the script. Okay, so if you are running the script, it will go ahead and capture that information using who am I command. So I will use a who am I command so that I know that who is running that command. Okay, and that username would be displayed on the screen. Clear? So how to use that in the script, we will see that in future sessions, but for now these commands are clear. Who am I and who space am space I, they both are different, don't get confused with them. Okay, see, okay, now let's say I will open a new session. See, this is the putty session that was opened via which user? Bob user, right? Minimize this. This is a Bob user session, right? I connected directly with Bob. When I did SSH, I connected with which user? Bob, right? So that is the session. So if you see here, this session, this PTS session was started by which user? Bob. right? So now if I go to here and if I do who am I, so this is Bob. So this is the user that started your PT session or the bash session that was started, shell session. Okay, that is PTS, right? Now if let's say Bob knows, okay, Bob knows Himanshu's password, so Bob wants to switch to Himanshu user. If I hit enter and I do Oracle 1 2 3, okay, so I am connected with Himanshu user. But see, if I still do who am I, it will still show this session was started by Bob, okay, but who is the currently connected user is Himanshu. There is a difference between them, right? So many times what happens, let's say someone takes your IDs. So normally when I write scripts, I try to use both options, who space am I and who am I. So for security, if you are writing scripts for security and secure scripts, so that time what we do, we use both options, that we check whether the who space am I user and who am I, they are same or not. Okay, if you are running by individual IDs, let's say you are the employee, you have a team with 10 members and each 10 members can run the script individually. So best option is to have a script that will check whether the session was started by the same user and the same user is only running the scripts. If it is not same user, you might have a condition that cancel the running of the script. Okay, that script will not run until unless the same users are there. The user that started the session and the user that actually went ahead and running the script, they should be same. Okay, so normally I check both, who am I space with space and who am I without space. If both the usernames are same, then only run a script. If they are different, then there is some security breach might be there, someone has got a password or something. So depending upon the environment, you have to write that, but both are very important. Clear? Got it? Because if I only use who am I, so if I run the script and the script will capture Himanshu has run that, but that session was started by Bob, that means Bob has connected to the session and Bob knows Himanshu's password. That's why he connected to Himanshu user and ran the script as Himanshu user, right? So only capturing who am I in some places is not very beneficial, okay, if you are working on a very secure environments. Okay, so these two commands are again very useful there as well. Now going ahead again, let's say we have opened this thing. So now next command is, okay, I have not shown you one more command. Okay, so let's say you know that this is my host name, but in case you want to see that, okay, you are not aware what is your host name, so what you can use a command as date command, sorry, host name command. So host name command will tell you what is the host name of your system. So it will tell you which domain, that this is the host name and this is the domain of that particular server. Okay, so if you want to capture that, okay, this script was executed on which host name, so that time you have to use this particular command that is called as host name command. Clear? Any doubts? Yes, all system will have this command. Any system you will see, you have this command. So in host name there is an option, if you don't want to see the domain name, you don't want to check the domain name, you can just take host name -a. Sorry. Yes. Okay, I have not defined a separate host name. Separate domain is not defined in the file, that's why it is coming as this. Okay, so I will show you how it works, because there is no domain name defined there. Now next you have one more important command, what is called as, apart from host name, that normally how you read a files. Okay, how you go ahead and read files. Okay, right now we are not talking about writing files but reading files. Let's say I go to this directory where I have shell scripts. Okay, few shell scripts I have placed. Okay, so first important thing is you have to check whether the file is a binary file or it is a normal ASCII text. Okay, so what you will do, you can use a command known as file and the file name. Okay, so what it will do, it is a simple born again shell script and it is in ASCII text executable file. Okay, which can be read. If it is a text, it can be read. If there are some file like PNG file or some binary files which cannot be read by normal human beings, so those type of files will not be opened. So it will show you executable binary file but you cannot read those files. Okay, so let's say if I want to read a file, let's say this file, so what command you have to use? Cat command. Cat command is used for reading a particular file. If I insert it here, enter, you will see it will show me the content of the file. Whatever is the content of the file, it will show me here. Clear? Okay, now then again next thing is, let's say this is my file. Now after that I want to read multiple files at the same time, so cat will also help in reading multiple files at the same time. Cat, let's say I will read this file and then I will read select file. Okay, two files. So what it will do, it will first display this file content and then it will display the second file content. So if I hit enter, so it has displayed first file content till here. Till here was the first file content and then you have this file content, the next file content. It is, yeah, this one. This is the next file content that is mentioned here. Clear? Okay. So you can have multiple files read at the same time using the cat command. So cat is also called as concatenate, that you are concatenating files together. Okay. Next, once you have cat command, so there is an opposite of cat which is called as tac. Okay, it's just the reverse of your cat command. So now what this command is doing, it is going ahead and reversing the content of the file. So just now what we have read in this order, let's say this file I have read cat. Now if I go ahead and do this, so what it will do, it will reverse. So last line will be first, then second last line, then third last line, and then the first line what was there in the file, that will become the last line. If I enter, so see it has now displayed me the content of the file but in totally reverse order. Clear? So that is your tac command. Got it? Okay. Now next what we have a command that is used to make directories. Okay, so I will go back to my server. Okay, right now it's don't have anything, but let's say I want to make a directory, I want to make my first directory. So what I will do, I will simply do mkdir is the command that is make directory, and what I will mention, what is your directory name that you want to make. Let's say I want to make test1 and hit enter. Just hit enter, the directory would be created. Now if I do ls-ltr, you will see a directory got created. Clear? Clear till now? Okay. Now going further, let's say you want to make multiple directories together. Okay, you say okay, I want to make 5 directories, 6 directories. So in the make command itself you can just separate them by spaces. Let's say test2, test3, test4, test5. Okay, sorry, I have given space. As soon as I give a space, it will treat as a separate directory name. So it will create 5 test directories, and this directory already exists because I already created, so it will give you error saying that it cannot create that directory because this already exists. Okay. Now if you do ls-ltr, you will see 5 directories that got created. Got it? Now next we have, let's say this is the directory that I created only on my home directory. This is my home directory, if you remember, user home directory. But let's say I want to go ahead and create directories as a parent-child directory. Inside test1 I want to create test2, then test3, then test4, then test5. But inside it, like I have to go inside it, right, recursively. So how to do that? You can use again mkdir, but there is an option with mkdir, that mkdir and mention parent. P is for parent-child relation. Okay. I will define P, and then what I will simply do, test1 slash, inside that create test2, inside that create test3, inside that create test4, inside that test5, sorry, test5. Okay, so now what it will do, it will create a parent-child relationship directory with subdirectories. So test1 will have a subdirectory as test2, test2 will have a subdirectory as test3, test3 will have a subdirectory as test4, and test4 has a subdirectory as test5. Clear? Now if I hit enter, it will be done. So if the command is not giving you any output, that means that was successful. In Linux, if the command ran successful, it will not show you any output. If there is an error like this, that test file exists, so that time it will give you a warning or error on the screen. If the command was successful, nothing will be shown on the screen. Okay, a command where you are performing some actions. Okay, so there it will not show you anything on the screen. Now this is done. Now if you go ahead and see it here, it will still see the same thing, but if I go inside this test1, okay, or I will use the option that we have just now learnt, ls-lt capital R, okay, to see recursively. So now if you see, these are the 5 directories, test5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and inside test1 you have a test2 directory. See here, test2, then in test2 we have test3, test4 and test5. Clear till here? Any doubts in this? Okay, so this way you can create a parent-child relationship. Now when you create a directory, right, when you create a directory, next thing is that you want to go ahead and create or remove, sorry, not create, you want to remove the directory. Okay, so how will you remove a directory? Okay, so removing a directory, again the command will be, earlier we used mkdir to make directory, same way rmdir to remove a directory, and hit space, and next what I will do, I will let's say test5 shift insert. Okay, so now if I hit enter, the command gave me no thing on screen, that means the command was successful and the test5 directory would be removed. Okay, but here is a catch. Okay, if I do rmdir with test1, it will give me error. Why? Because rmdir will only remove the directories that are empty, that doesn't have any content. Because my test1 was having directories, right, it has lot of directories, a structure of directories are there inside test1. So this rmdir will not allow you to delete this directory which have some content inside it. Even it's empty directories, but it doesn't matter. It will just treat that, okay, inside test1 I can see some directory, so it's not an empty directory and I will not remove that. Clear? Okay, so to remove such kind of directories where you have some content, you have to use rm command. Okay, rm-rf and test1, and if I do it, it will remove it and your whole directory structure would be removed. rm-rf means remove recursively and forcefully, that don't ask me before deleting. Okay, so it will delete test1 fully. Clear? Okay, so this is how you make directories or remove directories, and these are the various commands that you can go ahead and see. Okay, so I will send you an assignment for this, what you have to do based on this particular exercise. Okay, so try to run these commands what we have seen. Try to check these, what is command man info and the other commands that we have seen today. Okay, yes, yeah. No, I didn't get your questions. Come back again. Okay. No. Which one? You are talking about RMDIR example? This one? No. So they were directories only, because I used mkdir. We have not still learned how to create a file. I have not shown you how to create a file. This directory, if you see the first character, directory is a folder. What we say it here, let's say folder. Normally on Windows, see, these are my directories, right? These are my directories. Okay, but in Linux what happens, directory and files, everything Linux treat as a file only. Okay, Linux, how the Linux structure is designed, the operating system, it treats everything as same. Only the difference when it will do is that you will see these characters here, where it will contain a directory, it will be having a character D here, whereas on non-directories or the files, it will not be having this character at the first line. Okay, so directory is just a normal folder that is there in your Windows, what you say. Okay, in Linux we call them as directories. Okay, so this is how you do it. Okay, so I will stop here today. Tomorrow we will continue with more commands. So we are completing the commands first, because the commands will be used again. Okay, and tomorrow I will also start with a very basic small shell script. Okay, very basic one, but in that script we will be using all the commands what we have learned till now. Okay, so that will be a simple script, but we have to use the commands whatever we will learn on that. So tomorrow we will start with a small basic scripts and the best approach to write a script. Okay, okay, fine. So we will end up the session for today, and we will see tomorrow. Okay, and I will try to upload the video as soon as possible. Okay, thank you, bye.